In this case, the American Civil Liberties Union filed a suit challenging the constitutionality of provisions of the Communications Decency Act, which prohibits transmission of obscene or indecent communications by means of the Internet to persons under age 18. The lower court upheld the injunction against the federal government on the basis that the Communications Decency Act violated the constitutional right of free speech. The U.S. government appealed the lower court's decision to the United States Supreme Court. How would you decide this case? Is the transmission of indecent communications by means of the Internet to persons under 18 a violation of First Amendment rights of free speech? We'll be back in a moment with the answer to that question. Should the decision of the lower federal court to enjoin, in other words prohibit, the enforcement of the Communications Decency Act against parties sending obscene communications be upheld? Yes, according to the United States Supreme Court, in this precedent-setting case. The court held that the Communications Decency Act, or CDA, was overly vague and lacks the precision that the First Amendment requires when a statute regulates the content of speech. The court further stated that although the government has an interest in protecting children from potentially harmful materials, the CDA was overly broad in that it suppressed a large amount of speech that adults have a constitutional right to send and receive. This case is about the jurisdiction of the United States government to prohibit indecent communications on the Internet. The court held that the enforcement of the Communications Decency Act, the CDA, was an infringement on the rights of free speech under the U.S. Constitution, and that there is no effective way to determine the identity or age of the user who is accessing the material on the Internet. In the absence of a reliable way to screen underage persons using the Internet, the Communications Act imposes upon adult users unconstitutional restrictions of the right of free speech under the U.S. Constitution. However, the court made it clear that the enforcement of the injunction against the government does not preclude the government's right to investigate and prosecute persons using the Internet for child pornography activities, which is against the law at both state and federal levels. The enforcement of laws prohibiting child pornography and other related activities continues to be one of the greatest challenges of modern times because of the technological advances in modern telecommunications. However, the use of the Internet to perpetrate child pornography gives law enforcement a new tool for catching criminals who are involved in child pornography, including possession of pornographic materials. Remember, it's a matter of law.